like to welcome you on behalf of the Chan Moore family to the celebration of the life of Raymond Scott Chan and Kendra Chan. As you know, we lost two very fine Chan people, extinguished too early on Earth. But our two stars continue to radiate their brilliance. Isn't this a fine day? Yeah. All right. So, my brother Scott Chan, my niece Kendra Chan, as you know, were among those many people who perished in the dive boat catastrophe on Labor Day. As we gather today among family and very close friends, we may experience a range of emotions. Although we may begin from grief, sorrow, despair, and pain, through our special program, we will hear stories that will bring us joy, admiration, nostalgia, empathy, love, amusement, and hope. Let the celebration of life begin.
Family and friends, we come together today to celebrate the lives of Scott and Kendra. Some may think that a celebration is inappropriate, too difficult, or doesn't respect Scott and Kendra's lives. Some of you may come from traditions that are far more somber on occasions like this. Others may choose a more quiet affair with no fanfare. And that is the challenge, isn't it? How do you honor the lives of two people in a way that everyone can appreciate, understand, and be healed by their participation? Vicki and family chose a celebration and this venue to celebrate the lives of her husband and daughter with the idea that today's gathering would respect their values. This place is unique, filled with so many memories. Scott and Kendra were scientists dedicated to the exploring how this world works and how to leave it a better place. What better setting than the Academy of Sciences, a place dedicated to exploring, explaining, and sustaining life on Earth. If Scott and Kendra were here today, they would be, as the British say, gobsmacked. They would be hard-pressed to believe that so many friends and colleagues would attend a celebration of their lives. They would be mistaken, though, and it is not surprising. Both Kendra and Scott were unassuming people, but living very active lives. They did what they loved to do most, making a difference in others' lives and in the world. My guess is they knew they were doing something important, not focused on recognition or fame, but impacting one life at a time. Scott was committed to engineering, science education, and teaching in the classroom. Kendra dedicated herself to marine ecology, protecting endangered species, and spending as much time in nature as possible. Their enthusiasms were contagious. I first met Scott in July of 1983. We were office mates at Tandem Computers. It was heady times for the computer industry. Scott's interests were always varied, ranging from fast cars to diving to bicycles. I remember when Scott first learned to dive. As he became more proficient, he regaled us with his ocean adventures. He loved to dive and went on and on about diving for abalone. At one point, he decided to take up bicycle racing again, and we spent countless lunch hours biking from our offices to Page Mill Road or out to Stevens Creek Reservoir and up and over Mount Eden. Scott was, if you will, always all in, both at work and at play. Our lives changed when children entered the picture. First my son Patrick, and then Scott and Vicki's daughter Kendra, and finally our directions changed. Scott left Tandem and continued his career as an engineer and later as a teacher. I remained at Tandem and the successor companies, retiring as an engineering director last month after 36 years. If we allow it, our paths are rarely linear. They are rarely predictable, nor are they ever certain. What we seek in our younger lives may be very different than where we find ourselves later in life. What I find fascinating is that Scott and I started as engineers only to be overtaken later in our lives by vocations serving others. Scott became a beloved teacher. I became a priest and chaplain. Kendra's career was already a vocation, protecting endangered species and help others better understand why we need to care for all life on Earth. A career is marked by accomplishment. A vocation is something completely different. It is marked by impact. I know that all of us are struggling to understand the tragedy that took Scott and Kendra's lives, along with the other divers that fateful night. I have no pat answer despite all my training. The why is always elusive. It is always unanswerable and is usually unresolvable. So where does that leave us, those with emotions raw, spirits troubled, and heart aching? What we have, what nothing can ever take, is our memories of time spent with Kendra and Scott. We can reimagine Kendra wandering across the tide pools, lost in the wonder of sea life, hidden there, or hiking a well-loved trail, stopping to examine the wildflowers. We can remember Scott waxing eloquent about some quirky aspect of physics while his students rolled their eyes. There is a time for mourning our loss, and I think Scott and Kendra would understand this. We each need our own time to heal, but what a better way to honor them than going outside, enjoy nature in all its beauty, where healing of the soul can happen. Kendra and Scott understood nature's power to restore, to renew, and to reinvigorate. My guess is they would agree. What better way to honor them, these two outdoors lovers, by losing yourself in the beauty of this world. Scott and Kendra lived active lives of service to family, to friends, and to community. They touched countless lives and people and left a mark wherever they went. They are examples of what life can be and maybe what life should be. So today we celebrate their lives that reflect what we can be, and we give thanks that they played such an important role in what makes life so precious. For those who are able, I'd like you to please stand for a brief prayer. At the rising sun and at its going down, we remember them. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. At the opening of the buds and in rebirth of spring, we remember them. At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of the autumn, we remember them. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. As long as we live, they too will live, for they are now part of us as we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember them. When we have joy we crave to share, we remember them. When we have achievements that are based on theirs, we remember them. For as long as we live, they too will live, for they are now part of us. We remember them. Please be seated.
Thank you all for being here. I'm going to start my talk about my 40-year relationship with Scott. I met Scott when I was a 17-year-old college freshman, and he was a 19-year-old junior. After 5 years together, we tied the knot on October 20th, 1984. So our 35th anniversary is coming up. To Scott, I am incredibly grateful for the 40 years we spent together, years which I look back on with great joy and true amazement at how much we did together. The learning, the sharing the joys and sorrows, the accomplishments and disappointments, raising a family, building a home, volunteering in our community, traveling, spending time with friends. Scott was, in every sense of the word, my life partner. Scott was the perfect person to introduce me to the life that I was seeking upon starting college, looking for more adventure, more outdoor things to do. And it is with him that I first experienced many of these: hiking, backpacking, and camping in the wilderness, bicycle touring, skiing, scuba diving. And beyond that, we shared so many other interests in art, natural history, theater, music, exploring great cities. And he introduced me to his wonderful close-knit family who welcomed me from the start, and with whom I shared many, many experiences. I recently reread our marriage vows, and I'm glad I did, because there's a couple of great excerpts that I'd like to read. Marriage is a union of two individuals, each with their own spirit and personality, but bound by love and common values. A good relationship allows each to pursue their own goals and develop their unique talents, as well as to strive for common ideals. Your love will give you the strength to make your special contribution to the world. Love knows no limit to its endurance, no end to its trust, no fading of its hope. It can outlast anything. It is, in fact, the one thing that still stands when all else has fallen. Very, very appropriate. I am eternally grateful for the full relationship and rich experiences we had together. Scott also insisted that I grow as a fully independent person in my own right. He helped me become strong and resilient. This is what gives me the strength to deal with the grief of losing him. Although my love for Scott and his presence in my life will never cease, it is because of him that I know I can continue to live my life without him by my side. Scott gave me this tremendous gift. Okay. 9 years into our marriage, we became parents. Kendra was born. 3 years later, brother Kevin was born. Scott was devoted to raising our kids and provided valuable guidance. He ensured that they experienced many wonderful things, including exposure to the natural wonders of our world, and he was a great father. Kendra was shy as a child, but as she grew up, she overcame much of her self-doubt through her insatiable drive to achieve in her many pursuits, particularly in her academics and career. As her self-confidence improved, she conquered many, many fears head-on. One example, which is very recent, is that she pushed herself to overcome an anxiety she actually had about scuba diving, which is hard to believe for those who know her. But to conquer that fear, not only was she a certified diver, but she became a certified reef check diver to do research, and an advanced diver, and was now going to be working on becoming a certified rescue diver. She just handled it just head on, dealt with her fears. And Scott and I were very proud of the woman she became. Kendra cultivated extraordinary friendships. Her friends have told me how much time and energy she devoted to them and how much she meant to so many in very profound ways. Kendra was a beautiful person inside and out. What is helping me through this absolutely unfathomable experience of losing my daughter is learning from the many of those whose lives she touched. The stories bring tears to my eyes, tears of joy and gratitude for what she did with her life, the strong bonds of friendship she forged, her intense zest for life, for exploring and for her passions. I have truly been in awe of this young woman, my daughter. I am grateful for her 26 years on this planet. Kendra packed in more experiences than many do in a lifetime, and she left impacts that will no doubt last through many of our lifetimes. My love for her will never wane. I will always feel her close to me, feel her presence in many places, experiences, and new relationships I will forge. Both Scott and Kendra relished adventure. Just this past summer, Scott spent 6 weeks in East Timor, a tiny island nation ringed by coral reefs. And there his volunteer marine conservation work entailed diving and surveying the biodiversity of the region. And then as soon as he returned to California, though, he jumped right back on the bike. He had to get into shape before school started. And he logged some great times for those cyclists out there, great times climbing the top of Mount Hamilton, Highway 9, and Old La Honda Road. He was just like in such a hurry to do this. And like her dad, Kendra also packed her breaks between work weeks, full of outdoor activities, from oceans to mountains, deserts to valleys. They lived life to the fullest, had a never-ending curiosity for the world and how it works, and of course a passion for adventure. And these are the qualities I will do my utmost to carry on, as I know they would want me and Kevin to do. I want to thank everyone who has reached out and supported us, to family and friends, and they have helped beyond measure, and Marsha and Barbara in particular for organizing this gathering. I recently read in a book, in the mystery of the universe, we still inhabit that universe together and are tied together in a love that cannot become untied. The gifts from the life we shared are the gifts that can never be taken away. So let us consider the meaning behind our choices, the value behind what we care about, and ways to better love those closest to us. And let us carry Kendra and Scott's spirit in our ongoing lives.
So for those of you who don't know, my name is Rain, or Toby as my family calls me. Kendra's my cousin, and Uncle Scott is my uncle. Kendra and Uncle Scott are people I have known my entire life. I am the only child of a single mother. My cousins are as close as I will ever get to having siblings. When I think of my childhood, there are a few memories that aren't connected to them in some way. Uncle Scott taught me how to ride a bicycle right here in Golden Gate Park. He bought me my first and second and third Stanford shirt, knowing that I would wear them proudly and obnoxiously on the UC Berkeley campus. Kendra and I have emulated each other since we were really little, from toothpaste brands as children to different deodorants as adults. No thing too small to emulate. My cousin Tiffany, Kendra, and I sing jauntily about loons every Christmas, and we take a photo with Kendra's neighbor's loon mailbox to prove it. Loon mailbox, loon mailbox, loony loon mailbox. As you can tell, the three of us aren't the best singers in the family, but we love the joy of singing and having goofy traditions together. All of us grew up going to Yosemite and Tahoe almost every year. We climbed Half Dome as a family, but it was Kendra and I who descended together, sprinting the entire way, the wind at our backs and laughter and exhilaration in our hearts. Every conceivable holiday is an excuse to get together, eating and howling with laughter and eating more and going on walks and then saying, "Hey, let's eat some more." Those memories are so much a part of my being that I can't separate them out into a single story. If I tried, it would be the single ongoing story of our lives together, 29 years long. We are so close as a family, as true as any blood, as any memories. We share the sweet salt of the California sun and the pine scent of the mountains running through our veins. This closeness is a blessing, but it can also be limiting. In life, we become so close to the people we know, so entrenched in our relationships. We forget that we are seeing only the tip of the iceberg, one single stunning facet of our loved ones, and that there is more to learn about and appreciate. Our family has the kind of relationship that is filled with jokes and food and tradition, more food, and adventure. When we're busy being ridiculous and heartfelt, there's no time to try to take in the full glory of a person. To have a lifetime of experiences is a special bond. It transcends time and space and death. I was so fortunate to know Uncle Scott and Kendra as family, and yet there is so much more to them than I could ever have seen. If there is a beauty in their passing at this time in life, it's that we are all still here, alive, to remember and honor and carry them forward. Since they've died, I've gotten the chance to hear from others the astonishing impacts they've had on the world, to spend time appreciating everything I shared with them and everything I didn't. Martha Hickman wrote, "The relinquishing of our most intense grief makes a space into which a new relationship with a loved one can move." While they were alive, I cherished our time together. Now that they're gone, they are here for me more than ever, a legacy we uphold in our hearts and our actions. Through these memories and your stories, I get to see the whole people that they were, the forest through the trees.
While I wish the reason for this gathering was different, I'm very happy to see everyone out here today. Thank you for joining us to celebrate the lives of Kendra and Uncle Scott, and thank you for all of the support and love that you have shown our family. For those of you I haven't met yet, my name is Bryan Scott Yang. I am Kendra's cousin, and I'm Uncle Scott's nephew. I'm honored to be speaking here today, and my goals are to tell you some stories that really stand out in my mind, as well as explain to you what these two have showed me and taught me. Kendra, I'm only 2 years older than you, and our parents have never lived more than 5 miles away. So we were fortunate enough to have spent a lot of time together growing up as kids. Naturally, you became like a little sister to me, and like younger siblings tend to do, you copied a lot of the things that I did. Recently, I was watching a home video of us from about 20 years ago, and if I jumped on the couch, you jumped on the couch. If I did a somersault, you were right there behind me. One of my favorite photos of younger us is when we're at Glacier Point at Yosemite, and I'm looking at the camera, sticking my tongue out and making a silly face, and you're looking at me, making that exact same face. Thankfully, your copycat phase was short-lived, thankfully, because I did a lot of silly things, and let's be honest, never really set a great example for you anyway. As we got older, you matured, I definitely didn't, and I got to see some amazing things from you. Kendra, when I think about you, one of the first things that always comes to mind is that you love to learn. You took numerous AP classes in high school, and you continued to challenge yourself in college by taking classes that weren't even required by your curriculum. You then took this wealth of knowledge and you applied it at your jobs that focused on marine life and wildlife conservation, and you excelled at what you did. And it was evidenced by all of the bonuses and the awards and the praise that you earned. Your ability to incorporate your passion into your career is something that I've always admired, and it's something that I'm trying to emulate. So, Kendra, tell me, now who's copying who? I'm gonna miss watching you devour loaves of garlic bread at dinner. I'm gonna miss hearing that infectious laughter of yours that made us all smile. And I'm gonna miss watching and seeing you wear your dad's sweatshirts that were way too big on you. But most importantly, I'm gonna miss having the opportunity to continue watching you blossom into the beautiful, intelligent, passionate, and adventurous woman that I will always remember you for. My commitment to you, Kendra, is to love all things nature, outdoors, marine life, and science. Uncle Scott, as a kid, I never really understood or realized the tremendous amount of interest that you took in my life. From birthday parties to my baseball games to camping and really everything in between, you were right there by my side supporting me in my endeavors. As I got older, I quickly realized just how fortunate I was to have you in my life. I loved spending time with you, whether that was going out to Sonoma to do hot laps at the racetrack, or driving out in McLaren to go hiking at Pinnacles, or even something as simple as going over to Oakhurst and having dinner with you and Auntie Vicki, which inevitably was followed up by your favorite dessert of Black Forest cake. As you and I spent more and more time together, I learned to trust and respect you deeply, and I found myself wanting to share things about my life with you that I normally didn't tell other people. I remember how proud I was to drive over in my new car a few months ago and show it off to you, and frankly, a little bit scared to let you behind the wheel. And I remember how excited I was to introduce you to my girlfriend. You always took the time to check in on me and see how I was doing, even as you were busy following your own pursuits. Thank you for consistently showing me and teaching me what it means to be a caring, loving, and thoughtful uncle. Uncle Scott, my commitment to you is to be this same kind of uncle to my nephew, Charlie Scott Jensen, as you were to me. Kendra and Uncle Scott, I'm gonna miss having the ability to make more memories like this, but rest assured, I will hold on tightly to the ones that I already have. I will miss you, and I will love you forever and always. It's only fitting that we're having this celebration of life here today at the California Academy of Sciences. I encourage you to walk around, spend some time checking out the exhibits, and learning as much as you can, because I know for a fact that's exactly what they would be doing. As you do so, please think of ways in which you can continue to honor the legacies that these two leave behind. Once again, I would like to express my gratitude and my appreciation for all the love and support you've shown me and my family. Thank you for your time.
I was searching through the one box of memorabilia from my school days when I came across this gem. Do you recognize the composition book, kids? My diary, Marsha Chan, high 3rd grade. Saturday, my mother went to Kaiser Hospital to have a baby. The next early morning at 2:49 a.m., March 6, 1960, the baby was born. I'm glad we have a baby brother. His name is Raymond Scott Chan. Tuesday, every month, my father goes to see my mother, who is in the hospital. My mom and Scott, the baby, are well fed. My dad brought my grandmother home to be the lady of the house. Wednesday, my sis received a letter from our mom. As soon as the nurse brings Scott in, he starts eating and never stops until the nurse takes him away. What a piggy. Thursday, guess what? My mother came home from the hospital today. And you know what? I don't think Scott looks like a monkey, like my father said. I think he looks rather cute. Friday, I heard the baby crying. My father was sort of busy, so he asked me to change the baby's diapers. Thus begins a series wherein I describe changing diapers, a new an exciting challenge for an 8-year-old. A few years later, 7 years later, when I was about 15, our parents, Ray and Ida, decided to take up skiing as a family activity. As budding skiers, we would ride the chairlift up the face of Heavenly Valley Ski Resort and ski down the green and blue runs on the other side. One time, though, Scott and I sat in a double chair, and the lift lurched to a stop, leaving us dangling over the steep pitch of Gun Barrel Run. Scott had no patience waiting for the lift to start up again. He resolutely leaped off the chair and skied down to the base of the mountain, leaving me, his big sister, apoplectic, yet awestruck by the fearlessness and athletic skill of that kid. After years of practice, I was able to join Scott on Black Diamond runs. For decades, we took ski trips together and skied a few moguls. Still, my heart would skip a beat when Scott would pause at the edge of a cornice, cock his head, and say, "This way." Vertical propulsion downwards was not Scott's only direction. One summer, when both Scott's family of 4 and my family of 4 went to family Y camp at Sequoia Lake, we entered the Y camp triathlon, which consisted of swimming across the lake, rowing a dilapidated wooden rowboat a certain distance, and running around the lake. We fielded an adults team and a kids team. I swam for the parents. Tiffany, a member of the Homestead High School swim team, swam for the kids. Scott rowed for the adults, and Kendra rowed a boat for the kids. Terry ran for the adults, and Bryan, a Cupertino middle schooler, was picked to run for the kids. That summer, though, there was a new requirement that each swimmer have a spotter. Bryan spotted me in the first leg, but he got stuck in the middle of the lake because, unbeknownst to him, the spotter's boat also carried spotters of other teams. As Kendra rowed her boat to shore, we heard her and Tiff yelling, "Run! Come and run!" But he couldn't get to the shore. So Scott, who was barefoot except for sandals, ran to the rowboat, grabbed the socks that Kendra had brilliantly slipped over her hands to protect them from the splinters on the crappy old oars, shoved his feet into them, put his sandals back on, and took off running. His horizontal propulsion around the lake helped that team finish. We all laughed so hysterically that we didn't care who won. After all, at family camp, everybody wins, right? Scott and I shared a passion for learning and teaching, a kind of upward propulsion. His was for science, technology, engineering, and math. Mine for language, culture, and communication. As you know, Scott spent the summer diving in Timor-Leste for science, but he also engaged in weekly gatherings with local teenagers who were learning English. One email thread of substance that he and I shared while he was 8,000 miles away was about interactive language games that he wanted to give to shy and nervous teenagers to practice speaking English. My brother, a teacher, cared about students, about learning, about learners and their needs. And this is just one example of his generosity in sharing his knowledge and skills. These and thousands of other memories will help me miss and celebrate the life of my brother, Scott Chan.